Hey guys, welcome back to Dollar Store DIY Friday. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio. So this is going to be a very practical but cute project, and it all was inspired by preparing for another project where I had many items die cut. I was trying to stack them up and they were getting all tangled. I was so frustrated and I thought there has got to be a better way to store and organize things that are already die cut. So this is not your dies, this is the pieces that are cut. And if you are like me, you like to cut things ahead or have busy work while you're watching TV, I just really like to go through all my scraps and have things prepared when I'm ready and feeling creative so that I don't have to stop and cut things out. So this starts with the 4x6 picture photo brag book. Every dollar store has them, and so it's an easily findable thing. If you can't find it at the dollar store, probably at the grocery store or at Walmart or Amazon. This is probably the most easy to acquire type of photo album, and once you've altered it, it really does suit a practical purpose. So I picked some cute papers. They're bright and cheery. It makes me happy. And some matching trim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to store my die cut pieces inside the pages from the book. I've removed them and altered them, so now I've got one page for each of these die cuts. Now they're not going to get tangled up. I can see what I have at a glance. I could put more in the back, like double them up, but for now this is what I have cut, so I'm just going to store them and be happy that they won't get damaged and tangled up, and I'll have lots of dies ready when I want to be creative. So this just tucks in to here. These flaps hold them secure, and then I can tie up this end and everything stays neatly inside. Also bonus, I'm gonna make this as a recipe book because I just was thinking, how cute is that? You could put your recipes in those pages and then be able to use them without getting them messy while you're cooking. So let's make this together. So this was the book I picked up, and it was from the Dollar General. It was still $1. I think these are pretty standard. The brag books you get are in all the dollar type stores. They're meant to hold 4x6 pictures, and they just have all the little sleeves that are clear on both sides, and then they have the page that connects them. So why did I choose to take the pages out when you can just slip the die cuts into the pages with it being the way it came? I do feel like it's a little bit challenging to get that in there, and it could be bendy and it could cause the die cuts to get damaged. So I decided to take mine out, and then also it made sense to me that at some point I might need to decrease the amount of pages for it to fit into the cover once I start adding the die cuts and the liners to the pages. So I may take them all out and then just only put a portion of them back so that it will hold its shape. So the first thing I did was I clipped out the pages from the cover, and honestly this was so easy, you guys. I just took regular scissors. These aren't specialty anything, and I cut along this line right here, and I'm even just going to do this in real time so you can see. I am literally cutting all of the pages at once. I'm just holding that those blades down close to the middle of the book and chopping through all those pages at once. Once you get them removed, you want to clean up this edge. So I cut mine with the guillotine cutter, and at first I thought it wasn't going to work because it's very bendy, but it worked like butter. And so now what I've got is all of these pages are the same height so they look nice and even and the edges are clean. I chose to cut them at 4 3/8 just because I wanted it to fill up the space inside so that they would not move around too much. So now you've got the pages out. I am just going to fold this back on itself, you see, and hold that and go back in and clean up the edge that's left. So easy, just snipping right down along there, and it leaves a nice clean finished look. You want to turn it around and go back that way as well, and that will give you a nice base to add your layers to. So I also took off the sticker on the one that I'm working on, and I found it a little bit challenging. There was residue left. This one isn't going so badly, but maybe just warm it up a little with a hairdryer or a heat tool, not a lot so that you melt it, but just to reactivate that glue. See how it's sort of peeling? You don't want that. So what I'm gonna do next is take out the covers that are in it. And I measured it and decreased the measurements slightly because I want more of the back to be for the spine than for the cover. So I just measured this and cut my cardstocks that I'm matting the printed paper with so that it would match. I've got this one all set. It's cleaned out and the insides are removed. So I finished the back with the pattern paper that I'm working with, and I first thought that it might be good to use an adhesive that works really well for non-porous surfaces. Like this is plastic, so you want it to actually stay on. So I thought hot glue probably wouldn't be a good choice. I tried this. It's meant to hold down jewels, and honestly, it did work really very well, but it's straight up really smelly. And if you are sensitive or you have allergies or you get headaches, you don't want to use this. So I put the back on and then wrapped up orders and had lunch and got distracted, and I came back and it was better. I don't know that it's going to go away totally. So I'm not going to finish with this, but if you have experience and you know that eventually it will dissipate, maybe that's something you could use. I'm going to switch to a different adhesive, and if it doesn't stay on permanently, I can just reattach it. This is for me, and so I don't mind having to do repairs if necessary. The border on this, the cardstock I chose was that gray matting, and for that purpose, it is 6 by 4 3/8 inches. I'm going to assume that these are all standard size because they're meant to hold the same size picture. So if you pick up one, just go ahead and measure it to be on the safe side, but I'm going to guess that they're all more or less standard. And so what you want to do now is build in. If you just put your pages back in, they would slide out. So what you want to do is build some kind of way to contain those pages. Now what I've got is 2 sheets of cardstock. I'm just demonstrating with the screen because it's scrap. They are each 10 3/4 by 4 3/8. So what you want to do is score on the 4-inch and the 4 1/2. So you're building in a 1/2-inch gusset into this book so that it will hold those pages inside. Do the same for this one as well. And then go ahead and fold it on your score lines. Want to attach it back to back this way and just line it up. You can see how I've lined it up with that score line. And then once it's in, it will overlap slightly, and you want that to hold the pages inside. So I did already finish one with the cardstock I'm using for my finished project, and you can see how I've got a 1/2 inch space on either side once it's closed, and then it overlaps in the front so that it will hold everything inside. That is the only place you're gonna need that score board for, so go ahead and get that done and out of the way. So what I want to do, I'm going to go with tacky glue now, and like I said, if I have to repair this, I'm okay with that. So I'm going to add a line of this glue, not extending it so far that it will squeeze out once I add it to the book base. Once I add it to the cover. And I'm just going to line that up with the first piece I put in. You want to get it lined up pretty close and not move it around too much so that the glue doesn't smear all over and crazy. I had a second piece of that pattern paper cut. And I'm going to put that on the inside of the front cover. And why I'm not choosing just to slide it into that pocket is A, I don't want it to move around. And also that plastic is opaque. It isn't completely sheer. So you wouldn't really be able to see that pattern the way it looks if it's inside that pocket. So I'm just going to work on the front cover now, and I'm using this collection. This is So Happy Together by Echo Park. It's not a new collection, but it definitely is bright and cheery and happy. I love the homespun kind of country look to it, and this is kind of reminding me of a quilt. I'm using that same gray cardstock again to mat the separate patterns to keep them from getting too busy looking. And then from that collection, I only picked one image, and the reason for that is because I want to be able to add this die cut holder to the bin that I'm going to take with me when we go camping in the camper. I want just have a variety of die cuts ready and then tuck this into the bin so that when it's evening and everyone comes inside, I can work on this and then just have a nice selection of dies to pull from. So I don't want a bunch of embellishments like dimensional things that could get caught on stuff. I just want to be able to wrap all these dies up and put it in the bin and take it with me. So here's the front cover. Very, very, very simple, but it's cute and the colors are bright and happy. So I'm going to put more adhesive on that and stick it to the cover. So that's going to be on the front cover. And what I want to do first is add some trim so that I can tie it closed. I've got this pretty taffeta from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I'm just gonna tie this up like I would a mini album. I'm just gonna wind it around, make sure that I have enough to tie a nice bow, and then clip off this excess. I'm going to first add a bit of that glue to this just to tack it into place. I think the rest of the layers will permanently secure it, but this will just keep it steady while I'm working on the next bit. So that is going to hold that in place. I'm just going to put more of that on this and then attach it to the cover. I much prefer the instant gratification of double-sided adhesive tape, but I don't think that it would hold very well. So this is the next best thing for me. I'm lining that up with the piece that I glued on the inside cover. That way it'll have a nice finished look and there won't be any of the backside showing. This is dry enough now to move on to the next step. So what I did to finish the inside of this, which doesn't need to be fancy because it's just more for practical utility use than it is for fancy, but I like to finish things because that's what I do. I put more of that double-sided adhesive on to the pattern paper that reminded me of the quilt. Do both sides, and I'll do the inside flap as well. So now what I can do is add my pages. So I've got quite a few ready. I cut a 4x6 card stock to go in just so that it would be a little more sturdy and easier to see the die cuts inside. So I've got all of my skeleton leaves. I've prepared these for an upcoming project. Here are some flourishes, a frame, there's some foliage here. You could put your doilies in or whatever. I really like to drag out my folding table and put it in the foyer when we have a show on that I just want to listen to. I don't need to see it. I do drag out my dies and my scrap paper and get a lot of cutting done ahead of time, and this way I'll be able to keep them from getting damaged and tangled up on each other. So this also is going to make a great addition to my camper craft. So that is all for this week's dollar store DIY. If you enjoyed this project, give me a like, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll leave a link in the description below for the playlist of my other dollar store DIY projects, and for Really Reasonable Ribbon, you will also find links to our social media platforms. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!